Do you see that as an improvement? Do you think that could get you where you need to be?
That would totally help me.
How do you object to what I just said? You can't, because I'm not using my product.
That's good.
You cannot object.
She's so good.
I don't know what you're selling right now, but I want to buy it.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. If you're looking for real conversations with real people, you're the right place. Let's go!
Awesome.
There we go.
All right. Looky who we got in the studio today.
Helen in the house.
Miss Helen, and last name, I'm...
Wheels.
Wheels. Helen Wheels. No.
Helen Talmadge.
Helen Talmadge.
It's like I've missed this the whole time I've known you. Talmadge.
Yeah, so I was a little unsure about that. So,
Who's here?
I was like, where's she go right now? I don't know. Sometimes, so.
Yeah.
Helen, we dressed up for you today. Just for you.
Thank you. I noticed that. Yeah, and I dressed down for you.
You're wearing slippers.
Yes, I am.
I hope the camera picks up on
My
that.
bedroom shoes. Why
It's
not?
amazing.
Yeah.
So, guys, this individual, Miss Helen Talmadge, she's been an intricate part of the TA journey over the last 8 years, I would say. She's helped a lot of our partners / clients facilitate sales management, sales growth, sales training, messaging. She's got a plethora of experience. Let me just go over this experience. Last 15 years, she's been involved in more than 80 sales transformation initiatives. Yes, I said 80. She's helped grow sales organization productivity and revenue, including several members of the Inc. 500. Her experience includes developing custom sales process, empowering marketing through solution-centric messaging, sales and sales management, and is an expert presentation skills trainer. Also, she has a very good, actress background? How do you say that? She's got a lot of experience in actressing.
Acting?
Acting?
I'm an actor.
Actressing?
When I was growing up, I wanted to be an actor, and my parents were mortified because they were like, no, be serious. What do you really want to do? And I'm like, no, seriously, that's it. And they're like, okay, you need to get an education. That's ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. So I took their advice and I got into sales and I started getting real jobs. And I was like, no, I got to go back to being an actress. So I did that.
How old were you then? When you got into it?
Oh, I got into it at an early age, but once I got out of college, I was with a touring theater company. We did dinner theaters and traveling theater. And then I found out they were right because I actually like money. So I was like, darn it. You're not ever going to get rich doing this. So I got out of acting and got into sales and eventually found my way back into acting and kind of went back and forth for a while. And then I found out sales was acting. So
Wow. That's good.
Say that again.
Good.
Sales is action.
Like that. I brought this up last night, I think, when me and you and Rachel were talking. A lot of people say success, they focus on the technical skills. So your technical skills was the communication piece, the delivery. You really honed that in. And then you combined it, with your sales training and your showmanship. And when you combine all those ingredients together,
right.
I mean, you're a powerhouse, delivery, control the room, have people really engaged in what you're saying. You know how to listen, you know how to communicate. That's why I think lately with a lot of our partners, we really emphasize the importance of messaging, right? Especially being solution-centric. Really drawing in on the pain points. I think in 2024, this year, that's more important than ever because of how noisy the market is. Everybody is marketing. So how do you really break through the noise? It's with messaging.
Yeah.
Clear, concise messaging.
Right.
I think so often organizations sales and marketing are two different vehicles, but they work together. And you can't have one without the other. And there's a proper way. And there's like foundations that are required for both of them, but then there's processes that are so different. And yeah, Helen, when I've seen her in action, with a partner or a prospect, I mean, you're so good at communication and empathizing, and being able to put yourself in the shoes of the audience that you have and really tap into those pain points and those emotions, because it's emotions that entice us, to move forward with something. You got to get to that place, whether it's joy, whether it's pain, whether it's disappointment, whether it's happiness. And once you get them there, then it is so easy. I don't want to say to manipulate, but I mean, essentially, you're getting them to a real place, and it's easy to sell them, on something. But do you feel, I have a lot of corporate experience, and I saw we bring in new sales reps for the position, and there's only two type of people that would come in. It's either somebody that had the product and industry knowledge, right? Or there's one that had no product industry knowledge, but a ton of sales experience, with communication and all that. Is that kind of the same thing you found? And is there one or the other that you would rather have if you could train up a sales rep for an organization?
Yeah. So, that's an interesting concept, because the reality is, you were talking about messaging and how important it is. 95% of all people who create product messaging do it the same way. And so there's a great opportunity in the marketplace for the 5% to really differentiate themselves and stand out.
Wow.
And so you've got people who are very product knowledgeable. That actually, the more product knowledge you have, can actually be a detriment.
Yeah.
It's not a positive, it can be a negative, unless you understand some fundamental things. So then you talk about the salespeople that come in who have incredible sales experience. Well, what is sales experience? Is it having a charismatic personality? What is it? So to me, that's what I focus on, is defining what a good salesperson looks like. And to me, a good salesperson understands fundamentally their audience. And so if you don't understand human behavior and psychology, if you don't understand how people process information and make decisions, if you aren't able to understand the needs of the people you're selling skills is not about pushing product. It's about understanding your audience. And so, and you mentioned the word vehicle a minute ago. You said sales is a vehicle, marketing is a vehicle. They're different vehicles, but they have to be in alignment.
Right.
When you're driving down the road and you have a vehicle that's out of alignment, you're going to get pulled off direction. And so having a sales organization that works together like a well-oiled machine and is synergized in everything they do, understanding the different parts that function in an interoperability way, then you've got a perfect opportunity to generate as much revenue as possible. But not just revenue, it's amount of time and efficiency within the sales cycle. I don't care if you make $1 million a year, but if it takes you too long to make it, you can't operationalize your business. So you got to make the money in the shortest period of time with the most efficient process.
That's good. I think that's where messaging is so critical, because marketing and sales, they have to speak the same language. So if I'm in marketing, I can do a print advertisement. I can do a social media campaign. I can send stuff through email. I can have online visibility, a website, and all those things, which are kind of intangible, no human element, because I'm seeing these things throughout. And, it takes 8 to 12 touch points for somebody to move forward with something. So those are part of those touch point processes. The sales rep has to come in and be speaking that same language. And so we have to, from the top, we have to have that cohesive message of our brand. Because when I was in corporate, we had these very expensive pieces of equipment that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so many companies were focusing on like the features and the benefits. Hey, this can produce something in 10 minutes. It can use these number of materials. And it's like they were taking the wrong approach, because you're going to blend in with the competition. Everybody's going to focus on we're the fastest, we're the cheapest, whatever it is, as opposed to taking that different approach and getting your message of really tuning into your audience, what you're saying, to where we tap in and say, I want to move forward with you because you understand me, or you're coming across from a perspective of caring about the audience.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? There's a word, it's a 2-letter word. It's one of the most misused words, and it makes it psychologically hard for people to ever buy from you. You may want to guess what it is. 2 letters. It starts with a W.
We?
Yes. People love to say, we can do this. We have this. Let me tell you about our technology. Let me tell you about here's how and it's we. So that actually keeps the product on this side of the fence, on the person who owns the product. There's no transfer of ownership to the actual consumer, customer, or business that's going to use it. And so one of the things that we help people understand is it has to be we when you talk about your product, because you can't stop using the word we. I'm not suggesting it. When you're talking about your product, you don't use the word we. We want to use the word you. What if you were able to do this? What if you had this? What if your team could do this? What if your technologist could do this? What if your consumer could? So it's all about the utilization and how they're going to use it, not what we have. How are you going to implement it?
That's so good. I heard Simon Sinek, if you know him, he said it one time. He said, bad marketing is talking about me. Good marketing is talking about you.
Bingo.
And so, because if we come across, people are not looking for something that we're in a selfish culture to where we just care about what's in it for me. People that say differently, it's just not true. It's like, but once you find that pain point come across where this is the problem that I have, and you're saying the you as opposed to the we or the me. Mm-hmm. What you giggling at every time?
Just giggling.
Taking it in.
Just see my buddy, my neighbor, he hurt his hip, so he finally got looks like a little mobile. So he's riding his lawnmower. So that's awesome. Awesome news. Sorry, I just got caught off guard.
If we have people that follow every episode of the podcast, they'll understand. There's always a neighbor in the background.
Sure. I mean, I love it. It's real. It's
called
real
our
world,
commercial.
right?
So Helen, I mean, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Anderson, South Carolina.
So you've been around here pretty much your whole life?
South Carolina. I lived in Florida for a while, but predominantly South Carolina, North Carolina.
Okay, I didn't know what the acting, like Hollywood, LA kind of area.
What's interesting, when I first got into acting in terms of having an agency and going to auditions every week, people would show up by the droves from California because they found out they could come to South Carolina and make more money without auditioning against 500 people. They could audition against 150
Wow.
and increase their odds. And so there have been a lot of tax exemption and tax incentives for South Carolina, North Carolina, all in the Carolinas. And so the film industry is pretty active in this area. Down in Wilmington, we have Screen Gems. They produce a ton of television shows and things down there. So there's a lot going on here. So you don't have to go to Hollywood.
Yeah.
And we had Ryan Alford on a few weeks back. He's from Greenville, South Carolina. And I told him I married a Wade Hampton girl. That was the street, I guess the main road there.
Wade Hampton High School, Wade Hampton Street. Yeah.
That's where I learned to drive, where I got my license. I used to visit my father there in the summers. And just so happens, I was there at the same time, they lived there. And my wife was there. She was a little younger at the time. But needless to say, I was telling him about the commercial. And it just hit me when I spoke with you. I think I might have said 20 years. But she's actually been doing this commercial for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Which to me is unreal. I can't believe it. It's unheard of. Just to have a 30-year span.
That's like a soap opera actor.
It's funny.
It's like half your life, right?
What Jason's talking about, Jeff Lynch Appliance and TV Center.
I've seen
on Roper Mountain in Greenville, South Carolina. And Mark Lynch and his father, Jeff Lynch. Jeff Lynch started Mark Lynch 70 plus years ago. And Jeff Lynch has now gone on to heaven, but his son Mark has been running it for a very long time. And it is a hugely successful business. And it's a very unique business. They do things that a lot of people don't. And the same people have worked there forever, all the salespeople.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's been a fun journey.
How did you get that?
That was back when I was acting full time, and I just went and auditioned. My agent called me and said he's auditioning. And originally he was wanting to hire a female and a male co-host to do the commercial. Like, remember the old Rooms to Go commercial with the man and the woman? You may not remember that.
Yeah.
But it started off that way, and then it ended up just being me. Had no idea the journey would continue this long, but I
Did you
have.
sign any kind of contract? I mean, he said 30 years.
We just
Or
every
you
year
just
we
keep going.
just keep going, and yeah, it's a great
I'll fix something
relationship.
if it ain't broke.
I've noticed when we first started shooting the commercials, the camera was pretty close, and now that I'm much older, they shoot from much farther away. So I have noticed as I'm aging,
As soon as you say it. Whatever.
I'm like,
No,
why are
no,
you
no.
all shooting from way
It's
over
just a
there?
new technology. You know, it's just that it's got
Lighter and
Back up the
see
camera,
everything.
back up the camera.
same feature.
You know what's so interesting now is like the evolution of AI and how that's integrating so
gosh.
much into where, I mean, they're replacing people. You know, you could, there was one software I was playing with last year. And so you simply upload like a 15-minute video of yourself talking and just kind of reading a script. And then it'll be able to learn your language. It'll be able to learn your pauses. It'll be able to learn the inflection in your voice, all these things. And let's say you wanted to blast out an email blast to 1,000 people. And so you could personalize it to where you upload the list and just put the people's names. So if there's Jason, if there's Helen, there's Jonathan, there's Bill, whomever it is, the software, which would be you, would be a version of you, and it would say that person's name to each one of them, but you never said the name. And so it'd be able to say how you say Jason or Helen. And so we're just coming into an interesting time. I mean, Elon Musk recently just put the first like Neuralink thing, merging the computer with a human, you know, into the brain. And I mean, it's wild. So all that to say, AI may replace you within the next year, or we'll just keep getting further and further away with the camera.
Thank you for that vote of confidence.
Yeah, no, you're
Don't,
just
and
gonna
please
be.
do not listen to this.
Kidding.
Greenville, South Carolina. Don't get any ideas from this one.
Oh no, you can never be replaced.
Yeah.
Your value just went through the roof.
There you
I
go.
was saying that to solidify. I mean, 30 years, name somebody else that has kept the same actor or actress, you know, doing something for 30 years.
Bro,
It shows
that's why I'm
doing
like,
something
oh,
right.
okay. And you know, he knew right off the bat who you were. Oh, the blonde,
Yeah.
the short hair.
Brand, that goes back to the power of branding.
Power branding.
And
There you go.
consistency. Yeah. It's about consistency over a long period of time. And branding doesn't happen overnight.
So over the years, you know, with TA, we've helped, you know, E-Factor 3, Tagwire, Green Air Environmental. But on top of that, I mean, your plethora of, you know, of companies that you've supported, CPI, MasterCard, Red Hat, Nike, Philips, BD,
Those are some global brands.
Emerson, Honeywell, Ferrero, the chocolate, correct? And
Remember Rocher?
Illuminati. So, you know, and one thing that has really struck me is one thing we didn't key in on, along with this sales organization, these presentation skills, all this knowledge, what you're truly bringing to an organization is cohesiveness internally, culture,
Very important.
which is so important in today's market because, you know, people are dropping like flies. You consider the massive layoffs, keeping the people they want to keep. You know, it's a very dynamic market nowadays. And when you integrate this solution, you get everybody singing the same tune.
Hugely. It's amazing how many organizations are siloed and disparate and trying to operate independent while also working together. And it just, I mean, you can do that for a while, but it's eventually the wheels are going to come off the bus. You've got to get synergized. And just think about it from a revenue forecasting and visibility. If you don't have visibility, I mean, every aspect of a sales organization, sales support, marketing, the salespeople themselves, sales management, leadership, man, to have all of that synergized is just, it takes it to a whole next level. And then people love structure. There's safety in structure. Now you can look at structure as putting them in a box, but there's safety in the structure, and then creativity and individuality and authenticity can flow out of that. But without structure, it just doesn't work.
You know, you mentioned one time, and it really stuck with me. You know, when you're working with a potential project or a potential client, you are always asking, well, where are you in that process? You know, between 1 and a 10. And it amazed me. You know, I was involved in some of the training, and they didn't know. And then when it comes to integrating your culture in your company, you know, if that's integrating that process in the CRM, so then the head of sales or the owner can go in and get a snapshot of where you are as a business is very instrumental in success and growing.
Oh, yeah.
And keeping everybody on the same page. Like I said, the cadence, the same tune. And when you said that, I was just like, nobody knew what that meant. Every organization is different. But if you can get everybody on the same page, you know, where you can ask, you know, Johnny, where you at with the seal? You know, we're at a 3. You know, Zan, where you at? I'm at a 9. You know, Jonathan, where you at? I'm at a 5. You know,
Yeah.
everybody is rooting. Everybody is on the same team. And I just think it empowers the brand. It empowers the company.
So what you're alluding to, so for example, let's, you know, you've got your transactional sales, which are very short, couple of weeks, 3 or 4 phone calls. You've got your middle of the road, 3 to 6 months. Then you got 6 to 9 months. And some people have 3-year sales cycles, for crying out loud. Can you imagine how complex and how easy it is to get lost in where you are in a sale? And so what's happened in the past is just like you said, Johnny, where are you? Well, that answer is very subjective. It's not often objective. So we need to provide organizations with standard, remember I talked about structure, what are the objective answers you can give me? If you say on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 means we've closed the business and we've implemented the solution, and you say you're at a 5, then these things have to be true, not just from Johnny, the salesperson's perspective. It's from the customer's perspective. Who cares if you think you're doing, oh, it's going great. Well, let's call the customer.
Right.
You're going to get a whole
They're
other
gonna say the
story.
same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've got to be aligned with internally aligned, but foundationally, where's the customer? Here's an interesting thing that most people don't realize. Whether you're in business to consumer sales or B2B sales, I think this is true across the board. There are only 4 states that you're ever going to find a customer in. And I don't mean states like South Carolina, Florida. There are only 4 states of mind where you're ever going to find a customer. And so all marketing, all sales, it all starts with understanding where your customer is, because every message that you bring, every communication, every encounter, every meeting needs to be based on what state they're in. So what happens is we have a one-size-fits-all message. Our organizations create these fabulous PowerPoints with our product, and we show up and we're a one-trick pony with our PowerPoint, and we say, hey, here's everything we've got. Here's everything we can do. Boom, boom. Stop me when you see something you like. Well, if the buyer or the customer is not in that state, the message is not going to be aligned. So what's interesting is the first state of the 4 states where you might find a customer is what we call latent pain. They ain't looking for anything. It ain't broke, don't fix it. They are not actually interested in anything. They might have some problems. They might be dormant or under the surface, but we call that latent pain because they're not actively looking. And think about most marketing messages. Product, product, product. Here's what we can do. They're not psychologically ready for that yet.
Right.
In the latent pain stage, what you have to do is help bring them to self-conclusion that they do have some problems, and they're motivated, interesting, curious. So the marketing messages focusing on that stage are almost non-existent. In some of these large organizations that you just read out, Jason, you would think they would have this type of messaging, but it's amazing how so much money and effort is spent getting marketing people to promote product. And they are missing the boat. You have to have 4 distinct different marketing messages.
That's so good. You know, it reminds me early last year, I had a problem with my car window. Okay. So I have an older car and sometimes the window won't go up. And so I have electric windows. That's kind of a problem. You know, if it rains, you want to make sure your window goes up. So I had a solution. You just have to 2 hands pull on the glass, you get somebody else to pull the lever and it'll go up. So I have a solution. You know, I'm not in that pain right now. And so I lived this way for months, and until one time the car window wouldn't go up. And so now I'm in a different state, you know, because I'm like, all right, somebody could easily break into my car. If it rains, it's going to get soaked inside. When I drive, it's loud as all get out. It's cold outside. There's all these problems. And so it was at that point that enticed me. I need to get my car fixed. Yeah. And so quickly found somebody. And at that point, it really didn't matter how much it cost. I just had to get my problem fixed. But back then, when I could manipulate the window and get it up, I'm not going to spend a couple $100 or $1,000 to get that because I can fix it.
Sure.
Now I was in, a major problem. Mm-hmm. And it was all those elements. It was those emotions that enticed me or moved me to make the purchase to fix my window. Because I'm driving down the road with tape and plastic on my window. It's flailing everywhere. I can hear every truck on the interstate, so I'm embarrassed. I can't make phone calls in my car, so I'm frustrated.
It's really tacky.
It's so tacky, Helen.
I'm surprised.
Right? But I mean, I was not ready.
Yeah.
I was in the wrong state to purchase. And, so question I have for you, if somebody comes my way, a business comes my way and say, Jonathan, I need a marketing plan. They really don't know what they need. They just know they need to invest some money in marketing. Mm-hmm. First question I always ask them with marketing is, all right, what are your goals? And so we have to know where you're going. They may say, I want to get more leads, or I want to get more sales, or I want to move more product, or I want more brand awareness, or I want to grow my social reach, whatever it is. Then I can put a plan in place. So my question to you is, when you go in for a sales training, do you have a similar approach to where goals, or there are just foundational things for the team that we have to work on first?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's do a couple of definitions. Okay. So when you think about the word sales, there are some things that come up: goals, needs, pain, solution, product, capability. I mean, there's a lot of words. And the problem with using nomenclature is if I say one word that we think we're on the same page with, you might define it completely different than I do. And so one of the things I like to start with is foundationally, let's decide what it is we're talking about here. So, a lot of people use the word pain points.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with pain and pain points, but what does that mean? Because pain is different from a need. You just mentioned, I need marketing. Well, is it a need?
That's
is it a pain, or is it a goal? Those are three completely different things. So let's start with the definition of solution for just a minute. So what would you say the definition of a solution is? Just layman's terms.
I mean, I always, they say you can't use the word in your answer, but it's like fixing a customer's problem.
Yeah, a solution's an answer to a problem.
Yeah.
So if there is no problem, why would you try to sell a solution? There is no solution without a problem, which goes back to that whole product thing. If you're just talking about product, but there's been no admission of a problem, you're totally out of alignment. Yeah. And so let's say a definition of a solution is an answer to a problem. And I'm going to add this. The definition of solution is answer to a problem that provides improved measurable results. All right. So then I ask people, well, whose solutions do we want people to buy? And everybody says ours. Well, we know that's the wrong answer. Whose solutions do we want people to buy? Their own. It's not our solution. It's got to be their solution. Absolutely. And so at the core of solution selling is the idea that we help people come to self-conclusion that they have an actual problem or pain. And a problem or pain is one that you can't live with anymore.
Yeah.
The window taping is not working. The plastic on the window, we've got to the point. So I'll just back up for 1 second. What you were describing is interesting to me. Psychologically, it's been proven that people can stay in the latent pain phase for a very long time. So you would think if a person couldn't roll up their window, they'd go that day and get it fixed. But look how long you hung out there. That's crazy. The stuff you were doing, people love status quo. Even if it's not working, people hate change.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. And it's like I hear about people and I'm like, man, you've been putting up with this for how long?
Right.
But they're
adapt and make it work.
Yes. It's just amazing. And everybody's rock bottom is different. Everybody's rock bottom is different.
And that's a shame because, we talked about this recently. If you're an organization and a company and things are going well, you have a few issues, pain, you uncover it. But at the end of the day, it's not enough pain to change, right? Not enough pain to change. I like that. That's a hard move to make. It's when it's hard to be proactive, to invest in brand, to invest in marketing. When things are going great, the numbers are looking good, the sales organization is in check. There are some pain points, big pain points that you identify and uncover. But until they really make an impact, it's hard to get them out of that proactive into a reactive state. So when they come to us, they're reactive.
Yes.
They're like, oh crap, we got to market.
Yes.
Numbers are going down. Sales are down. We need to market. So what happens? It leaves brand taking a back seat. And that's the wrong move. Brand should always be in the forefront. Brand strategy, brand, equity. I think the brand strategist role now is more important than ever. And it's that messaging, it's that brand strategy messaging that is not about the solution. It's more about helping them discover the solution. So it's that tiny voice that's always there. That's your brand. That's your branding. That's what branding is versus marketing. And that's a key component that I see a lot of companies are missing out.
That's huge. Just because we're on the topic of definitions, that's an example right there. When you say brand, some people say logo. That's my brand. Right. That's not the brand. It's just very interesting.
It's what someone, they build a space in their mind and they put you in that space. And it's what they think of. That's your brand.
Yeah.
So when they eventually come to that self-awareness that they need a solution, you want to be there.
Yeah.
The only way to be there is continuous branding.
Yes.
Brand is all about, what is somebody saying about you when you're not in the room?
That's it.
That's what branding is. And it's wild. This is good, like with the definitions of all these things, because even like with sales, I think of the definition of sales or sales role. Sales, I remember having a conversation with a friend, Valerie, one time, and I remember telling her, I was like, I can't stand sales. She just looked at me, she's like, why? It made me really start self-reflecting and figuring out why. And sales to me always felt slimy, to where kind of what you said earlier, like acting in sales, like being inauthentic. I'm trying to sell you something as opposed to you have a problem and let's help fix it, with the solution. And it's, if God's given me some kind of gift to be able to help somebody with something, I owe it to those people to be able to help them. And so it was kind of like that shift that had to happen with me. I'm not trying to sell you to make the money. It's like, I want to help you be your best. And you've expressed to me that this is the problem. This is the thing that I'm struggling with. This is where I've been up against for years and I can't get breakthrough. Hey, how about trying this? It was like when I looked at it from that approach, it changed a lot. And I think like with my background in corporate, we brought in so many reps that, their commissions, it was all based on how much money they can make was how much they could sell. And so just the approach was, how much can I sell? How much can I sell? How much can I sell? My question to you, Helen, how important, because I saw once they made the sell, people just dropped off. And then the customer is like, where'd you go? I need help. I need support. I need all these things. So how important is the post-sell as opposed to the pre-sell or the actual sell?
So I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to add one little point in if you don't mind, because what you're saying is so spot on. And this ties back into with marketing, messaging, everything. Salespeople are so ingrained to talk and tell and share. And if you really want to help someone, how are you going to help them the most? Yes. And in order to listen, you have to ask good quality questions. And that is one of the most underrated but powerful selling skills on the market today, is the ability to ask, and notice I'm using the word quality questions, because there are stupid questions, in selling today. And here's an example. Brace yourself. I don't want to offend anybody. So, oh Lord, be careful. Here it comes. Ready? Here's one of the most overused bad question. What's keeping you up at night? What are your biggest challenges? Well, of course, I want to know what's keeping you up. I want to know what your biggest challenges are. You know why? So I can sell you something. And don't you think that they see that coming a mile away? So if I'm going to meet with somebody, I'm going to do my homework before I walk in the door, so that as I engage with them, I'm going to be able to ask quality questions that demonstrate my knowledge of the industry, the marketplace, the trends, their business, their role. It's all about asking that individual questions that show I'm experienced, I'm knowledgeable, I'm here to support you, and I'm here to help you come up with the answers that you need yourself. I'm not pushing product on you. I may not even have a product that fits you at this moment, but let's collaboratively have a discussion about you, and what the greatest gratification I can ever have is when a client says, "Oh, that is a really good question. Now I know I'm in," because I'm helping them come to self-conclusion about what they need in their business, and they want more and more and more. Now, there's probably going to come a time when I will probably start to say, "Hey, what if you could do it like this instead?
Yeah.
What if you have this capability? What if you could operate this way? And let's talk about how that could come to fruition." But that's premature early on.
But if they're having a conversation with you, they want that, but it goes back to the state that they're in. You know, where are they, so that you can communicate, ask those right questions based on where they are. You can't go here and chat here if they're here.
Yeah.
It's good.
So earlier today, you asked me product knowledge versus selling skills, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So the truth is, in order to ask good quality questions, you have to understand something about the industry. And that is really a key component of marketing. If you have a marketing team who understands product specifications, technology, details about the product, components of the product, they can actually help empower the salespeople, because there's two types of questions. There's the open question, "Jonathan, tell me more about what happens when you're operating like this and the equipment line goes down. How are you fixing it?" So that's more of a tell me question. But then you can get into a more specific question, which means you do have to have some knowledge, working knowledge of what the client's environment is like. So again, that's where marketing comes in, helping equip salespeople with the best quality questions.
It's so good. So good. I heard one time, many times, it's like we talk ourselves out of the sale. You know, we just do so much talking because we're talking about me, talking about what we can do, you know, our product and all this stuff. And I've gone through countless sales trainings, and you get different approaches, you know, across the board. And the one that was most impactful to me was like learning when to stop, pause, even have that awkward pause to where, you know, you ask a question after you've said everything with them, and you pause and just stare at them. And so many people would get uncomfortable in that pause. Like if they're sitting around and we're not talking, I want to talk because it feels weird. And so sitting there 5 seconds and go by, 10 seconds and go by, 20 seconds, and make them be the first one to talk back. I experienced those were some of the best conversations and most likely to move forward, because I stopped talking about me.
Yeah. And that's what a good questioning in relationship is like. Because if you ask a question, you have to shut up and listen.
Right.
And take notes. And, you know, there's a technique we teach people. It's a actual questioning grid that they're supposed to follow. And at various times in the conversation, you're supposed to stop and just confirm everything you've just heard.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they talk, you listen, we go on, and we just keep going on. But if we can just stop for a moment and say, okay, let's back up for just a minute before we go any further. And I have found that technique works well, because we've all been with clients who like to talk. And it can be a runaway train, and it can be a rabbit trails. It can go all over the place. And at the end of the conversation, we're going back to our office and we're in the car and we're thinking, what did I accomplish? I mean, it was everywhere, but what was it? Are there tangible, clear next steps? Is there a concise next step that needs to happen? And so those confirmation questions help you get things calmed down, back on track, so that you can systematically make the progress you need to make in that conversation.
That's good. We always talk about like our business relationships. They're just like, it's like dating. And, you know, what are the ways that I got to marriage? You know, if you backtrack, she had to know me first. She had to know that I was on the map. Then she had to like me, you know, things that I was doing to where she's interested. And then there had to get to the element of her trusting me. And it was only when you got to that stage of the relationship of trust being developed that you can ask for the commitment. You can ask for the sale. Hey, will you marry me? That's me asking, will you buy my product? And for her to say yes. But all those stages had to happen, prior to. And if we approach these business relationships the same way that we approach our personal relationships, that's when a shift can happen. You can see these things change because you show that genuine care. And like you said, I think, there's people, or there's that inclination where do we listen to respond or listen to understand? And so often I've been guilty of this, like in a bad relationship where I want to prove my point. And you hear somebody talking and then there was something that was incorrect in that statement. I'm checked out. They're over there talking, but I'm not listening because I'm just waiting to get this next thing out. And so if I approach my relationship with my wife to where I truly want to understand and she can speak to me and I say, all right, this is what I heard you say. And I spit back what she said and she can correct it and say, thank you. That's not what I meant. Let me try again. Or yes, it is, because it's at that place of understanding before, all right, now let's move forward to this next part of the conversation. If that made sense.
So good. It's, marriage creates an awesome sales solution, right? My wife will come to me with a story, a conversation. And immediately, me being who I am, I like to offer solutions, So several times, she takes the time out. I'm not really looking for a solution.
Just listen.
Just listen. Same thing with your business. They got to truly appreciate who you are as a person and really want to understand where you're coming from and trust you and find, value in what you have to say or value in the fact that you just are listening to what they're saying. Ms. Jonathan brought up a good point. A lot of people don't listen. They sit there and they talk their heads off and next thing you know, they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
When you're right, if you just let them talk, even if for an hour, and I'm bad about this. I'm so bad. Jonathan knows. I will listen for hours and they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so dead. I'm just like, but I just enjoy listening because you uncover so much. And it's like a breath of fresh air. They really have no one that has just listened,
Right.
and just explored.
Yeah.
So you really try to create that consultative, approach and, listener that you're just trying to truly find the solution. And you may not have the answers, but you may know someone that has the answer.
Oh, yeah.
And once you establish that relationship, Jonathan's right. It's, it just opens up a whole new world. You're proactively early in the pipeline per se, right?
I think you said something that's important for me. You said, if I don't have the answer, I'll go find it. I learned to say, if somebody asks me something, say, I don't know. There was a time where I didn't want to say, I don't know, because it made me look inadequate or not knowledgeable or something like that. I think there's more power in being able to say that, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to find the right person and the right answer, and I'm going to come back to you. I think it takes a relationship to a higher level of respect. Instead of fumbling over your words, and I've seen such good salesmanship and bad salesmanship, there were people that are just talking and trying to create an answer, and you would see the confusion on somebody's face, like, okay, are you just making an answer up, or you truly understand this? Helen, how about objections in the sales process? If, everybody has objections, and, before we make that purchase. So what's your approach on overcoming objections to where when you've presented everything and you're good to go, but like, hey, I need to go talk to my spouse or this and that. There's I think it's the law of diminishing intent, to where every day that goes on, they're less likely to move forward with what you had them because it's in that emotional state. So comment on overcoming objections, that would prevent the sales process from happening.
What I'm about to say may surprise you. Yes. If you will use a consultative sales approach based on selling capabilities, not product, you will never have to deal with objections.
Okay, walk me through that. Let's give an example.
So let's say we're going to find a solution to one of your problems. So my first objective then is to establish enough credibility, curiosity, and interest with you that you'd be willing to open up with me and have a dialogue. So now we're in a dialoguing state, and I'm asking you good quality questions, and you are now being transparent and starting to open up about your problem. And I'm going to spend the correct amount of time fully diagnosing and understanding your problem before I ever go to a solution. All right. So number one, diagnose before you prescribe. So that diagnosis could take one conversation. It could take 3 conversations. It could take 2 weeks, but I want to really make sure I do a proper diagnosis. But what's happening during a quality diagnosis is that the trust is going through the roof. Helen, she really understands my problem. This is amazing. And so together we're starting to really clarify the root of the problem, not just the symptoms, but the root of what's happening in your life and what's contributing to it. I'm going to ask quantitative questions. I'm going to ask how often this is going to happen. I'm going to ask how many times, how much is it costing you? How much downtime are you experiencing? How many customers have you lost? How many sales have you lost? So now we've got the current state fully understood and the cost of the current state. All right. Now it's time to switch and start talking about capabilities, not product, but capabilities. The definition of a capability is what it gives you and your business the ability to do. So now let's talk through some capabilities that might address some of these problems. Jonathan, over the last 2 weeks, we've identified 10 problems that are going on right now in your business. And for each of these 10 problems, we've actually quantified how much those 10 problems are costing you, and we've put them in priority. So now it's time to talk through the potential solutions that are going to empower you to solve this. So let's start with problem number 1. How do you see yourself fixing this? What do you think it's going to take to do it? Can you object to that question?
No.
Why?
Because you're putting it back on me to where I have to answer it.
All right. So let's pretend you don't know. Pretend you go, Helen, I wish I knew. I had no idea. Well, let's talk through a few ideas together. We've seen this work with other clients. What would you think about this? What if you had the ability to do it like this? Well, do you see that as an improvement? Do you think that could get you where you need to be?
That would totally help me.
How do you object to what I just said? You can't, because I'm not using my product.
That's good.
You cannot object.
She's so good.
I don't know what you're selling right now, but I want to buy it.
I'm in.
Sign me up. That's so good.
It's only going to cost you $2.5 million. No.
So is it from the understanding of if you're already having the conversation, they know your product, they know your solution, they might not know the details, so there's no need to like present it in over and over. Always go to the capabilities and how their life will change.
It's literally just about the right order of conversation, because we jump too quick to the solution.
Yeah.
We've got these canned, we've got collateral, we've got brochures, we have PowerPoints, and we've been trained to talk about the product, the feature and benefits. So what? It's not about that. It is a collaborative, consultative, problem solving. That's why sales is not a dirty word, because you're not pushing anything. I'm not trying to convince you to do something you don't want to do. It is a journey that we're going to take together, and it's about me understanding where you are behaviorally and psychologically in your decision-making process and staying in alignment with you throughout the whole process.
Yeah.
So there's 2 buckets I need to consider. That's the first one. Individually, where are you in your decision-making process? And let's stay in alignment together. But let's say you work for a larger organization. And so now I need to understand procedurally, how does your organization make business decisions? So it's great to sell individually, but if we're talking about enterprise level sales, we're talking about 8 to 10 month sales cycles or more, and it being complex and having to navigate the org chart and sell to committees or whatever. Now we have to understand that procedurally, how does this organization make buying decisions and get into alignment with that as well. So that's what makes B2B complex sales cycles indeed complex. So, and if we can't separate out, we can't put all those things together. We have to keep it separate. We're selling to individuals and we're selling to groups, and we're selling to an internal buying process and procedure.
Mm.
So that's why, B2B sales is very, very lucrative because it is complex and it requires a whole different selling skill set
Yeah.
than a B2C environment, for example.
Yeah. Wow. That's really good. Because I went through so many trainings on the overcoming objections part, and the focus was, all right, when you get hit with this is how you respond. When you get hit with this is how you respond. And I mean, it was like 50 pages of objections I was trying to like memorize and understand, and almost you're expecting the objections to come in versus this approach. Don't focus on those objections. Bring it back here. Don't talk about your product.
Don't give them
Listen
anything to
them.
objective. It's
Right.
a dialogue for crying out loud. Well, let me make one other point real quick. You were talking about selling your wife on marrying you. So
It worked.
yeah, so here's a very interesting thing when it comes to objections. The very last phase that any of us human beings go through when making an important decision is the risk phase. So I've just found a new car and I love it. And I can't wait to go make this purchase. And I'm actually spending a little more than I planned on because I went in looking for a particular type of car, but then I saw the Ferrari and I decided I really needed it. So now I'm going into phase 3 of my decision-making 3 steps, and it's all about the risk. Now, risk is not an objection.
Yeah.
Risk is I really want it, but I have to justify my thinking.
Mm.
It's got to financially make sense. And now risk is about the future. 6 months from now, am I going to regret this decision? 6 months from now, what's the total cost of ownership? What happens if I need new tires, or if it, now we're looking at a more expensive maintenance situation. 6 months from now, when I get married and pregnant, am I going to fit my family into this car? So there's all these future things that happen to a person. In a marriage, I may be madly in love with this person, but I'm also projecting myself into the future. Long term, how is this decision going to work for me? And so risk can get prematurely elevated if we go too fast. If we go too fast in a relationship, if we go too fast in the sales cycle, and we don't preemptively think about it, risk is one of the most positive buying signals there ever was, because it's a natural human behavior we all feel. And if a salesperson doesn't understand that and prepare for it and factor that in, they could hear someone communicating something that has to do with risk and think it's an objection. And if they start handling it like it's an objection, they're going to blow it. Or worst case scenario, they start thinking it's a time to negotiate and they start throwing more things in the deal. That does not deal with risk. Risk has nothing to do with all that.
Mm.
And so psychologically, like buying a house, if you are looking at 15 different houses, how many houses do you have inspected?
Right.
The one you want to buy. And so do you object to that house? No, you're having it inspected to mitigate and lower your risk. I just want to make sure 6 months from now, I'm not going to need a new hot water heater. Or 6 months from now, am I going to find out this house has termites? I'm in love with this house. I've already decorated it in my mind.
Yeah.
I've already had parties in it. I want this house.
And you're going to justify it.
And but
Right.
the risk is the justification to do what I really want to do.
Mm.
It's not an objection. But salespeople misinterpret that as well.
Wow.
That's so good. That's so good.
So this approach, it's almost like I would almost call it passive selling, instead of like coming in with a close. All right, here we go. We're leveling up. We're at this point of the conversation. The movie is about to end at $50 million. Do you want to sign right now? But it's like you're not taking that approach. So if you're talking through somebody, are you presenting anything at the end, or is it? I mean, they have to talk about price, right? And are you putting that on them to ask that? Like if they're like, okay, Helen, all this sounds good. Well, what would that cost? Is it them asking the question, or are you leading it?
That's always the question, is when do we bring in price? That's always the thing that salespeople always want to go, well, when do we talk about price? When do we talk about price?
Right.
So, and unfortunately, there's not a black and white answer, but let's try to simplify it. If you think about the decision-making process at an individual level, just for a moment, all human beings go through 3 phases when they're making a decision. What is it I need? What's the right solution that's going to address the need? And what's the risk of making this decision? What do I need? What's the solution? And what's the risk? Okay. We do it in a very short period of time when we walk up to a vending machine. We go through those 3 phases. We do it in a long period of time when we're trying to buy a house. It doesn't matter whether it's a big expense or a small expense. All human beings, consciously or subconsciously, go through those 3 phases. And so the salesperson's job then is to stay in alignment. So in phase 1, determining needs, guess what is the most important thing? 2 things at that point. Let's say I need a new house. I've just outgrown my house. There's too many kids. It's falling apart. It's costing me too much money to maintain. I've got to get a new house. What are the 2 things I'm going to think about? What do I need in my next house? How many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? How many square foot? Fenced yard for the dog? Good school zone? Whatever, right? That's the needs. But I'm also thinking about money. I got to have a budget. I'm not talking about spending $300,000 or $1 million. I got to have some kind of budget range. So in phase 1, both of those things are important. Now, we can't nail down the money specifics in phase 1 because that's also the diagnostic phase where we're asking all the questions. So I think it's important that we have an idea. Do you have a budget in mind? Do you have a range? And if they say, yes, I want to spend $150,000, then it might be a good idea to say that we may not be needing to proceed with this conversation anymore because I don't know of a solution that we can do for $150,000. It's going to start at $500,000. So you can probably disqualify the opportunity for them and you. And the beauty of disqualification is this. Do you want to spend 6 months with someone to find out it's not going to work out? Disqualifying early is one of the scariest things that salespeople can do, but it's the most important thing you can do. Disqualifying early. So phase 1, all about determining needs. There is some preliminary discussion of budget ranges, but you don't get into any pricing. Phase 2, what is that perfect solution that's going to fit? What are the alternatives that we need to discover? And how do we find the right solution to address these needs? Now it's time to talk about the money. Once you've determined that, yes, indeed, I like everything we've talked about. I think these 5 things are going to help address this problem. Now let's talk about how much it's going to cost us. And at this point, that is the best time to bring up price, not at risk. Risk is about the financial justification of how they're going to justify making this decision.
If somebody, I think so many people are price focused. We always want the cheapest option or when there's so much to choose from. If you're talking to somebody and they bring that up so early before you even get into all these conversations, like, hey, what is your cost? Is that like a red flag to like disqualification to where that they potentially could be a bad client because they're just looking for, can I afford this or not, before understanding the true value after you walk them through the problem and solution? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Potentially, yeah, because you know what? If the business problem or the personal problem is big enough, the cost is not always as relevant.
Yeah.
The motivation for change, if the problem is big enough, they're going to find a way to afford it. So I think it has to do what. So we went back to definitions for a minute. So what's the difference between a pain and a need or a goal? A goal is this. Oh, I'd love to be able to do this in the future.
Yeah.
Or we need to do this. We can't do it now, but we'd like to be able to do it in the future. That's pretty good motivation for change. I'm not going to deny that. The need has to do more like with, I need a new car, but it's still not a problem. It doesn't address what the problem or the motivation is for the new car. So a need is a lot more about a product. Now, a pain or a problem is about, Houston, we have a problem. We cannot move forward until this is fixed. So pain is something that is manifesting. When it's pouring down rain and you've got a business meeting and you're all dressed up and the rain's coming in your window and you can't get the window up, that's pain.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how much it costs that day to get a window, you're going to get it.
Right.
Right? So pain is different from need. Pain is different from goal. Pain is it's happening, it's manifesting, it's materializing, it's tangible, it's quantitative, it's big, and it has to be solved.
It's so good. That makes me think of, is it the Venn diagram where you put like 3 circles together? You have that spot. That makes me think of the Venn diagram where you have pain, you have the need, you have the goal. But that sweet spot's right there in the middle, because my car window, that's a physical need. I need this new motor replaced, fix it. There's pain that is there that I'm experiencing daily. And there's a goal of what I want to get to, with this, to have a car that functions properly. And so, I mean, is there overlap in all those?
Well, sure. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I had a client go through a 10-month sales cycle that seemed like forever because he didn't have enough data storage. Well, at the end of the day, guess what it turned out to be? It wasn't that he didn't have enough data storage. He was worried he wouldn't have enough data storage in the future.
Okay.
He currently had enough, but he recognized in the future he was going to run out of data storage. But it wasn't manifesting immediately, and he was able to just justify putting it off. Because you know what? We hate change.
Right.
Absolutely.
We hate change, and we hate spending money. So I'm just going to put it, I know it's coming, and, I recognize this is something that's coming. So could you please provide me with this and do all this work for me and provide all this information? And then you get sucked into a sales cycle, and then you never ask them, how much data storage do you have now? When do you think how motivated are you to change right now? Is this the most pressing, high priority issue you have to solve in your life right now? Oh, heck no. We got to repave the parking lot. We got to build a new park. What? I wish I'd asked that question 10 months earlier.
And I think with organizations, a lot of them turn into glorified order takers. They don't see the value in proactive sales anymore. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed over the years that let's just take orders, let's put them in a funnel. Let's do this. And that, when the proactive sales is such an instrumental part of their sales.
I need to take notes from this conversation.
So
this is so good, Helen.
Here's the beauty. Here's the beauty. If anyone wants to experience this firsthand, reach out to our partner agency, Talent Alexander. We've got in-depth knowledge to help you approach this situation. Don't wait until it's so painful and you're in reactive mode. Or wait, we're just going to charge you more. I don't know. It's up to you. Be proactive. I think that's the biggest lesson I see here. Be proactive in your sales, in your sales training, in your presentation skills, in your messaging, and more importantly, in your branding. Stop being reactive. Stop letting the market, stop letting the situation dictate where you want to go. If you invest in it and continue to invest in it while you believe things are going well, even though there's some troubles that are underlying, you're always in a better position if you do it now, instead of being reactive, where you've got to get the numbers. You've got to hit fourth quarter numbers. That funnels down to your culture, to your salespeople. Then they're stressed. Oh my God, I've got to close. I've got to hit these. I've got to do that. Then that's just torture. That's not an enjoyable experience for anyone. So if you'd like to experience, hit us up. We'd love to share more information. We're happy to have a conversation with you. If you need help messaging, with your sales training, we've got all kinds of awesome stuff to share with you. If you enjoyed this episode, just hit us up. And I'm sure we'll have Helen back on, because this was such an awesome experience. And I think everyone that's listened has been blown away, just like I'm constantly blown away by your knowledge and your experience, Helen.
This is a drinking from the fire hydrant episode.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up to everything she's sharing, because I thought I had a lot of knowledge, and it's like, I feel like I need to unlearn some things and then learn, to adapt these new things. The thing that keeps sticking out to me is like the change aspect, how resistant we are to change. Heard a quote one time that said, change is not necessary. Survival is not mandatory. It's like, we have to change. We have to adapt. We have to evolve. And this example, like with the data storage, again, it goes into my Windows story, and it goes into almost everything. We're so resistant, but when that day comes to where we have to, if the dude runs out of data storage that day, He's not going to research other vendors. He's not going to look for the lowest cost, anything. He's just going to get his problem fixed right there. And that is a trend that you can see in everyday life of every individual, whether it's personal or business. And it's just blowing my mind.
And there's some things that you'll notice when you're having these conversations that they say, oh, you're too expensive for us. Your agency is too expensive, or your solution is too expensive. Oh, you're more expensive than them. You'll start to hear this thing, these quotes that potential customers are saying, and that tells you that you've got to work more in your consultative approach, that you really didn't hone in on the pain point and the value. Because if it was there, you wouldn't be put in a commodity bucket.
Right.
Because once you're put in a commodity bucket, game over. They're just looking, hey, what's the cheapest solution? And that
They'll leave you just as fast as they found it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The car window thing. You might go and you get it quoted, hey, this guy can do it for $30. This guy can do it for $100. This guy could do it for $200. But you call these people. One person answers the phone, asks the right questions. You might, hey, I feel really comfortable they'll do a better job. So you'll pay the extra money. You're paying for that experience and that knowledge.
Jason, quantitative value is the one element that ultimately causes a person to take action. It's not just the perceived value, it's the quantitative value. And guess how a client gets to the quantitative value piece? It's because the salesperson asked the current state baseline questions. And this, I will be honest with you, in 20 plus years of coaching salespeople, if I gave you 5 top selling skills that are necessary to sell well, asking quantitative questions is by far the weakest thing salespeople have. So they may ask a question like, is it because this is happening in your business? And the person will say, oh yeah, we're doing a terrible job of that. They don't ask the quantitative questions. What percentage of the time is this happening? How many people are affected? How many hours of downtime are you experiencing when this happens? What was the cost of that last year for you?
Yeah.
But if you don't ask quantitative questions, how do you build the value story? You can't. How do you justify the expense? It's only when you have a baseline of all of the components of what's happening in their world today, and then when you start to discuss the capabilities. Jonathan, if you had the ability to do this, can you see that that would help? And Jonathan says, yes. And then I say, well, if you had this, how much could you improve this by?
Yeah.
And now they're telling you how much your stuff is worth to them. You don't even have to tell it.
Oh, that's good. Say that again.
So good.
So once you agree on a capability, you say, if you had this capability, by how much could you improve this situation?
Amazing.
When they give you that number, they're telling you how much your stuff is worth to them.
That's so good.
The value analysis comes from them, not us.
And you've already uncovered the value because you've identified what it's doing to the organization, how much downtime, and how many people have they lost. So you're stacking up the value there. Mm-hmm. So you've already got an idea of what that value is of the solution.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Love it.
And then when you do the follow-up email, this is the type of stuff you're putting in the email to them. Great. Here's a summary of our conversation. These are your 5 business problems right now. This is how it's affecting your bottom line. This is what your current income is, your operational cost, your productivity is down this much, your profitability is down this much, your market share is down this much. And that may be the first time this client has seen this information. So you're providing a true business consultative service to them before you've even sold them anything.
That's fantastic. As I hear that, it's kind of like agitating that pain point. You're just listing out everything they shared, but there's a pain around it. As they know business is down, our growth, our revenue, this and that. You're just laying it out. Hey, based on our conversation, this is what you shared. This is where we are. But it's agitated. It's like, I need to move forward.
Yeah. Put the knife in, then you twist it.
Yeah. That's good.
Well, and it's really, you're not causing the pain. You're helping them come to self-conclusion that things are worse than you actually thought they were.
Yeah.
You didn't cause it. You're just helping them become full. How can we, in our personal life, how are we ever going to move forward if we're not dealing with reality? We're not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. We are standing in the face of reality, recognizing we have a problem, deciding whether we want to fix it or not, and what's the path forward we need to take. You can do it with me. You can do it with somebody else.
And guys, if you're wondering, if you're a business and you've got a sales team, or you just want to work on your messaging or your presentation skills, to integrate this isn't difficult. What we have is what we call intensives and workshops. We can do it remotely, in person. There's several different methodologies and ways to approach this. It's really not a one-size-fits-all, but it can be adapted to your situation. So don't feel like you're left out. Don't feel like you're too small, too big, or whatnot. If you would love to have more information, please reach out, and we'd love to chat more. I think, I think we've got enough today. Like I said, it's like drinking from a fire. I
think I'm done for the day.
So good.
Brain's at maximum capacity.
And I just saw Helen sell you on something. I don't know what it is, but
what am I buying? What did I just buy?
I just saw it. It was magical.
I can't wait. It will show up in the mail. Do I take it home today? Where is it?
I'm just like, I'm like, wow. So thank you so much, Helen, for coming by and joining us today on the Love Your Brand podcast.
You're a rock star.
You are a rock star. And if anyone else knows her or has worked with her before, you absolutely know that as well. And we look forward to hearing from my guests.
Hey, one last story. One of my favorite memories with Helen, the three of us, was when we go and present, last year to a prospect. And, Helen's always very polished, very professional,
Absolutely.
We may feel polished, but our attire is very casual. And so we're talking through Helen, like, hey, what do we wear, to this pitch kind of a thing? And Jason says, Helen, hat or no hat? And she's like, do I really have to answer that? And Jason says, you're right, hat. I can see Helen just rolling her eyes. Like,
well, at least put it forward and not backward. Will you give me that much? Just wear the hat forward.
Yeah, I just did that to mess with her.
Yeah.
But I did half and half, if you recall.
Oh, the hair was up. You had a bun. You had a hat.
And I took it off.
Pink fanny pack. I remember all of that day.
Oh, gosh.
See what I got for you?
Oh,
We're a mixed bag of nuts, but we all taste good together.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
Helen, thanks for coming on today.
My pleasure. It's fun. Love you guys.
Peace.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, share the love.